you, mom and dad, you are the most important person in the community, especially as it comes to the future.
Morning, sunshine. Today we're talking with Richard Ramos. He has over 30 years of experience with high risk youth and families. He has trained over 2,000 parent mentors and authored 4 books on leadership, family empowerment, and building safer communities. As a speaker, trainer, and executive coach, Richard is dedicated to equipping parents and leaders with the tools to create lasting change. Richard is father and stepfather of 8 children, grandfather of 11, and grandfather of 1. We talk about technology and children and how to adapt with the new technology that's coming in, how to talk about the chaos that's going on in the world and when to talk about it with your children and having that open communication, and so much more. This is real life and a real conversation with Richard Ramos. So grab your coffee and let's jump into the session. Richard, like I said, I'm so excited to have you on Morning Sunshine. Just all of the work that you're doing with young people, and then, talking about technology and anger. And as a single person with no kids, I see my friends and what they're dealing with, and I try to, support them the best that I can. But obviously, I don't see what's going on behind closed doors. But with all of that, that's why I'm really excited to have you on, because you are going to field some questions for people that they have just been agonizing over, really. And these are really close friends of mine, members of the Rise and Thrive community. So thank you so much for being on. How did you get into working with young kids, Richard?
Well, I'll come to that, but the key to this, who I really work with more is parents. I work with the parents of young kids, but I started out being a youth mentor of high risk kids. I was working as a counselor at a junior high school. They gave me I was at the time they used to call it the at-risk counselor. So I had 50 of the worst kids in the school on my caseload. These are
Wow.
kids that were either in a gang or they were using drugs or dropping out of school. Everything that kids are doing that parents don't want them to do, getting pregnant, missing school, not going to class, not doing their homework, all the things, just destroying, their life. So that was my caseload. So every day, sometimes I'd have a line of kids would be sitting outside my office waiting to talk to me. And the principal or the teachers would sometimes come by and say, "Hey, Richard, these kids need to be in class." And I'd say, "Well, I know that." I said, "But I didn't ask them to come here. They want to talk to me." So that was the kind of rapport that I was in that school for 2 years, and then I went to the high school for 2 more. And I was able to develop the rapport and camaraderie and trust, really. But what happened was, after I was a young parent, this was in the early 90s, myself at the time, and I knew, I said, I can't just believe everything these guys are telling me. I need to also talk to their parents. And that's when everything changed for me, because I started doing home visits on my own. Nobody asked me to do it, but I just knew, got to hear from mom and dad. Well, when I went to their home and saw and heard the disrespect, the no control, lack of relationship, sometimes moms with boyfriends or dads with girlfriend or single parents. It was not good. And I said to myself, if I really want to help my students, I need to work with mom and dad. And that's how Parents on a Mission got started. And one more story as far as origin. So right after this, I was at a birthday party. A gang member in our community had been killed. Was at the birthday party, and the grandfather came up to me and he said, "Richard," he was, upset. "Look what's going on. You need to talk to these kids, get them together. They listen to you." And I said, "Well, um, I've done that, and I will continue to do that, but that's not the best way to handle this problem." He said, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "Let me explain it to you in a way I know you understand, because you're a gardener by profession." if you were to walk down the street here in your neighborhood and you looked at all the yards and the flowers in the yards of your neighbors, and you saw that those flowers were dry and wilted and dying, who would you rather spend time talking to, the flowers or the gardener? And then he smiled and said, "Oh man, I never thought about it that way." And I explained to him, see, our kids in our homes are just like the flowers in our yard. And the problem in the community is everybody wants me, the at-risk counselor. They want me to take care of their garden, and I can't do it by myself. So, he understood what I meant. I need more parents to deal with their kids and take responsibility, and that's how I started Parents on Mission.
I absolutely love that analogy as well. I'm all about analogies, and just because it's gardening, it is growth. We are continually growing, and our families are growing, and we adapt with the climate and the environment. And yeah, it's really the environment for growth. So I absolutely love that analogy. Now, now, going back a little bit, when you were raised as a child, and you went through some of, your upbringing, do you feel
Right.
that helped you connect with the youth that was at risk that you're dealing with in the schools?
It really did because I was the same way pretty much as a young kid. I was raised in Northeast Los Angeles. So if you know anything about East LA, it's, along with all the other good things that are there. But it's a lot of gangs, a lot of violence, a lot of drugs and things like that. So I was raised in that kind of environment by a single mother. My father, unfortunately, was an alcoholic, and I witnessed a lot of domestic violence. And so when I was very young, my mother made him leave, but he was, still come around. So being in that environment, it's easy, just not normal to get caught up in it. But the thing that I always credit my salvation
Yeah.
from that was I was a very good athlete, and I had a very strict mother. And be the youngest of five children, she had her hands full with us because we, didn't always do the things like I said, like the kids that I was counseling. So obviously for me, uh, I connected with these kids right away because I understood. And I think that's sometimes people say, why do you do what you do? And well, that's why, because I understand what where these kids are going to end up and or could end up. And I lost friends that way. And so, there's something just kind of in me. I don't know how to explain it other than just calling me, to just give back and help and try to prevent kids from going down that road. So yeah, it was easy for me to connect with them and for them to connect with me because they could see that I understood them.
It's one of those things that when it's happening to us at the time, like when you were back younger and you're dealing with four other siblings, a single mom that's pulling everything together and doing her best. And let's just give her a big props for that. And what a strong woman to make sure that you stay on the right path for your life. But the whole silver lining of you having to deal with that is the connection that you now have. And really, that just aligns exactly with what you're doing. And if you didn't go through that, you wouldn't be able to have that same communication and connection, right? So,
Yeah, that's so true in a lot of cases. I mean, some people I've met and worked with over the years that they didn't go through that, but there was a genuineness about them, and that's really all that people want. They want to know that you genuinely care about them. So you don't always have to be an ex-drug addict or gang member or anything like that, but it does help for sure. I mean, because you've experienced it and you've walked through that. And I've also, I don't know that you knew this. I also later, early in my career, I worked in two prisons here in California and a juvenile hall. So that gave me another perspective of such talented young men and women in jail, in prison, in juvenile hall, and why? Why? And again, it always went back to their home life. And again, in parent, I don't. One of the things I always say to mom and dad, look, we're not blaming you for everything, but I am naming you as the most important asset in the community. Because when I ask the question, sometimes I'll ask the class or a group of, if I'm doing a seminar, who's the most important person in the community? And it's always the politician, the pastor, the priest, the mayor, the police, etc. And I always say, well, those are great people, but no, they are not. You, mom and dad, you are the most important person in the community, especially as it comes to the future and the health and the safety of the community, because we are raising the future citizens of the community.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. And the world seems like such chaos right now. So being a parent and navigating that. So when you do talk with a parent and their child, their young person in their family is going through that rough time, they are getting into gangs, drugs, or just don't have a want for anything for themselves. How do you, when you talk with the parents, how do you navigate out of that and help these young people sort of start living again and making something for themselves into a positive path instead of these negative ones?
Yeah, um, the key to it is parent looking at themselves. That's the key. And I always say that the difference between parenting classes, normal, most parenting classes, and parents on a mission, most parenting classes are teaching their parents how to deal with their kids. Parents on a mission teaches parents how to deal with ourselves, how to deal with our own issues, be willing to look in the mirror and say, maybe I'm part of this problem. Maybe I can, be honest about if I'm contributing to any of this anger, this resentment, this drug use, this lack of motivation, all those kinds of things. That's the first thing. Because just trying to change, this, Monique, we cannot change anybody.
Yeah.
We can't. And we can't help anybody that doesn't want help,
Yes,
right?
correct.
So a lot of these kids, that's their attitude, even though I know that they do want help. And even the parents, a lot of parents, I don't want help. And here's another thing. And then they say, well, I'm not a bad parent. I don't need parenting classes. And my response to that is this: that's the wrong way to look at this. Parents on a mission is not for bad parents. Parents on a mission is for good parents who want to get better, just like any other profession. Look at the professionals: a lawyer, a doctor, a teacher, a principal of a school, a mechanic. What do? They take online classes, they buy books, they go to conferences. Why do they do that? Because they're bad? No, they're already good at the profession, but they understand they want to stay relevant. They want to keep up to date. They want to be better, and why should our children expect anything different from us as parents? So to answer your question, that's the first place I start is mom and dad. Let's be willing to let's look at ourselves first of all and see maybe. And you know what happens? I've seen this over and over and over again. Um, and it's very challenging. I understand that, for to ask parents, maybe we're part of the problem. But when they do, things change, because what happens is the kids see their parents changing, and then they begin to change as well when they see that there's this is a real, this is happening, and I can trust my dad or trust my mom now because they are really changing the way they're dealing with me. So there's other things, but that's the first step.
Yeah, that's a great first step as well, is just that internal reflection.
Right.
And it's completely hard sometimes because you don't want to see those things in yourself.
Right.
And to be that example for your children as well, it sometimes navigating life as an adult, we're dealing with a lot of other things that the kids don't see, so we're trying to navigate that and still be an example for children. Yeah. One thing that you've said before is it doesn't take a community to raise a child, and that's not something that you believe in. So with all the people that are like, yes, it takes many people, it takes a community, like, what's your argument against that?
Yeah, there's a that's the saying. Everybody says it takes a village. It
Yes.
takes a village to raise a child. And I say no, it does not take a village to raise a child. It just takes good parents. So let's think about this. If it takes a village, I always ask this question as well. If that's true, how many of you parents are willing to turn your child over to the village? Nobody ever raises their hand. And I said, you know why? Because we live in a time where we don't know who to trust anymore. From the White House, in America, from the White House,
And in
to,
Canada,
to-
government, we'll just say
yeah,
government.
right. From the White House to the church house to the schoolhouse, we've had so many scandals and so many ugly stories of things happening, that we know. No, maybe way back at some time there was a more of a trusting attitude. But the truth is, parents' authority are being undermined. Family values are being undermined. We can't find a support from our education system, our government. Parental rights are being, taken away more and more. I don't want to get into all the things that have happened, especially during COVID. So I, say uh, what we want from the village is support, not control.
Yeah.
And that seems to be, and the other thing about it too is I don't think it's a good message to tell parents, you're not enough. You need the village. And I say, no, I was raised by a single mom. You are enough, mom and dad. And even if you're a single parent, you're enough. But there's nothing wrong with having support, but the responsibility of raising your children and giving them values, that's your job. If you want the values to come from the music and the lyrics and the rapping and the drugs and the gangs and the internet and the social media info, if you want that, I don't know what to tell you.
Hey, sunshine, I get it. I used to spend too much time trying to build the perfect website just so I could connect with people. I wasn't looking for flashy design. I just wanted a space where people could talk, share, and actually help each other. Then I found school. No ads, no distractions, just real conversations with real people. Every day I check in, whether on my desktop or my phone, and it's just like texting a friend. You get instant feedback and find people who get you, and you grow together. And here's the best part, you don't have to take my word for it. Try it free for 14 days and jump into a community and ask people why they're there and see for yourself. Because connection should never have to come with interruptions. Scan the QR code and experience it for yourself. Yeah, exactly. And there's so many people that have different outlooks on life right now as well. So
That's
really
right.
taking responsibility for your own family with your own values, that makes complete sense. Do you see really big shifts in mindset, or what are some blocks that you see that parents run into when they're trying to make this change to be a better example for their family?
Yeah, part of it, of course, is the economic pressure.
Yeah.
Parents have to work and some work two jobs, especially if they're uh, single moms or single dads or just regular mom and dad. And some of them have, two couple jobs. So being home, being present, being able to be at kids' activities, those are some of the, challenges I think that are really a little bit of impediment. But again, it's helping them understand your kids understand that you're trying to provide for them. So let's think about, but when we are home, what's happening? Or when you can show up, when you do have a day off, what are you doing with your time? Because those are times we can invest in our children and let them see, hey, you're the priority of my life. I got to work, you know that, I know that, but tomorrow we're going to do X, Y, and Z, or next week we're going to, and helping the kids understand that they are the priority of their parents. So it's the time and the money, or finances or jobs, the pressure. Those are things that sometimes parents feel like, I just don't have time. I can't come to a class, or I can't do this or that. And I'm trying to remove those excuses from them and say, okay, well, let's talk about what we can do, and not about only what we can't do because of money or time.
And that's exactly it. There's a lot of things that can that you're able to do with your family that doesn't cost money.
Exactly.
I'm lucky enough that I live on the lake, but even then, like there is going for a walk together. There is parks. We have the lake here, so it's going out kayaking. It's playing in the backyard. It's enjoying the fresh air and being outside. So
Right.
then a lot of people are like, oh yeah, well we could watch TV together or we'll watch a movie together. But in my eyes, I really don't see that as a connection. What are some things that you would suggest to, do with your children? Because a lot of adults don't feel that they can even connect at that same level because it might not be of interest to them, or it feels like, oh, I don't want to color. But how do you change that mindset of this is time with your child, you don't have to enjoy the thing that you're doing? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, no, that's right. And again, that goes back to that mindset of this is about winning the loyalty of your children, and that's the subtitle of my book.
Yeah.
How to win the competition for the heart, mind, and loyalty of your children, because that is what is happening. I tell parents, you are in a daily competition, whether you know it or not. Some people say it's a war for the heart of your daughter, the mind of your son. And what does that lead to? Their loyalty. They're pledging of allegiance to strangers, gangs, drugs, social media influencers, pedophiles, people that are, all of those things. How does that happen? Well, it happens because of a lack of attachment and connection. So exactly what you said, just going for a walk, going outside, it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. But one of the big things that we recommend is having dinner together with no texting, no email, no phone, no TV, nothing but me and you looking at each other and having a conversation. And again, well, I don't have time. And I will say, well, you don't work 24/7, 365 days a year. I
Yeah.
know that. So if you work in the day and work at night, you do have a tough schedule. There's got to be a day or two, Saturday morning, Sunday morning, Monday night. There's got to be a day or a night where you could say, you know what? On Monday nights, that's our night where we do sit down and we have dinner together.
Mhm.
That would be enough. Or maybe it could be 2 nights a week, or maybe it could be Saturday. And as far as whether I like or not, to do something, that's beside the point. I'm trying to win the heart of my son. Another
Yeah.
thing I recommend is to play games, to play board games or play charades, those kind of our family that we love to play Pictionary. Do you know Pictionary?
Oh yeah, I know Pictionary. I know Pictionary, and for my family, it was Scrabble. Like a
Okay,
Scrabble
Scrabble.
or
Yeah.
card games. A simple
Card
deck
games.
of cards that costs $2 will give you thousands of games for your entire family, no matter how big or small it is.
Yeah, so I recommend that, card games, dominoes, all
Yeah.
those kinds of things. And it what's the point? Well, you're just trying to have that social faced time that's being taken by Facebook, and get rid of that for a few minutes or whatever, an hour, whatever, and just have FaceTime.
Mhm.
So that's the point. And if parents can understand, we're in a competition. You know, our all of us, not only our children, are being bombarded every day, all the time. Noise, noise, distraction, distraction, emails, texts, TV, radio, television, movies, music. It never ends unless we turn it off.
Yeah.
And so if parents, I try to emphasize that's your competition, the entertainment, and they usually get it, and then they realize how important it is to plan some kind of activity where there's no distractions other than just like what you and I are doing right now. We're just
Ex-
having a conversation.
Exactly. And this is the real conversation right here. And this is real life of what's going on. And that's what Morning Sunshine's all about. Real people and real conversation about real life. And this is something that a lot of parents are dealing with, especially with technology. It's becoming such a part of it. And yeah, we're using technology right now to talk on Zoom. But if there was a young person that came in, it might look like, oh, you're just playing around, or you're doing whatever. How do you navigate that when you are using technology, let's say for recipes, or you're on your phone to check an email for work or to pay bills, and your kids see you on your phone all the time? How do you say, oh no, I'm an adult and I need to do this for adult things, without them being like, oh, you're always on your phone?
Yeah, well, again, I think it's what are we doing on the phone? If we
Mm,
are on the phone because we all technology, there's a good side to technology that is helping us. There's the other side too. But as far as that goes, our if our kids see that, yeah, we're using the technology for life, for work, for business, for communication, for information that I need, whether it's looking up something on the internet or for school or knowledge that I needed for my job. That to me, you can't criticize that.
mm,
But if they see us on social media, posting pictures and reading the latest on Facebook and the latest on Instagram and being all caught up in the life of other people and those kind of things, which is kind of what they do. But if they, and a lot of parents do it too. And so that, yeah, that's a different thing. And that would be a legitimate um, criticism of a child to say, well, you're always on Facebook too. So that's the balance, I think. And I'm not saying parents should never be. I use Facebook for business. I don't use
mm.
it for personal. Matter of fact, all the social media, I use it for business to promote Parents on a Mission and whatever, other things I'm doing. So
Same.
we can have a happy balance where our children can see that we are not, I think the thing is this, we are not allowing the social media um, social part of it interfere with my relationship with you.
Yeah.
And as long as they see that, I think it's fine.
Do you think kids should be on social media, and at what age? Like, or should it be just because, oh, they're mature enough to handle what they're going to see, or like how when do you start to introduce that? Because tech is such a big thing nowadays, and it's going to be something that's in their career or in their life, especially with AI that's coming in. So, how do you navigate, like, yes, this is enough technology so you don't fall behind with society, but this is too much? Like, where is that line?
Well, I think it's a mistake for parents not to monitor young children from what they're listening to and what they're watching online, and to give them free reign at night to go to bed with their phones and things, or with a computer or tablet. I think that's a mistake. I think you definitely need with, how old? Well, my 5-year-old granddaughter, she already knows, she has her own tablet. She already knows how to navigate a phone, pretty much.
Yeah.
So my son is always, on top of that. Uh, the other thing too, of course, there are all these protection softwares that parents can get that, do limit what kids can access. But when they get older, even those things they can get around those things, just like, anything else. When they get a little bit older, again, I think it's a matter of conversation about that relationship that we talked about. If you're building that, and the one of the reasons you're building that is so that your kids will listen to you when you start giving them input about, hey, let's talk about that, or you need to be careful about that, or want to tell me what are you doing on Facebook or Instagram? Tell me about it. What's happening there? What are your friends posting? And if you can early on give them the safety that they can tell you the truth and what's happening, and there's no judgment, there's no anger, there's none of that, or give me your none of, you're just having a conversation because you're showing them, hey, I just want to be involved and I just care about you. And if you don't do that, And then all of a sudden now you haven't, from the time they were maybe, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old, you haven't done any of that. And all of a sudden now they're 13 or 14 and you notice they're getting into some stuff. That's like trying to take a bone away from a dog.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fight. It's going to get ugly. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but that's going to take a different tact. Um, we can talk about it if you want to.
Yeah,
But
I'd love to because I have seen technology taken away from children and it is a freak out. I have seen kids run out of the house and like are runners because of the freak out of being having tech taken away. I've seen like things being thrown against the wall. And these are usually kids that are respectful, are polite, and everything else. But once that tech is like, oh, okay, you're done with tech time, it is a freak out. So, any suggestions for parents to, yeah, start taming that down and start rendering that down? And is it, do you take it away fully and completely, or yeah, how to help people, Richard?
yeah, well, I wouldn't, again, let's just go through a few scenarios because each dynamic is a little different.
Yeah.
Um, If children are already older, and I want to say at least if they're already like in junior high and maybe even younger, it
Yeah.
depends on the kid. You got to know your children. But let me just start. Say they're in junior high school already or high school.
Okay.
And to me, I would not recommend just taking it away from them completely. That's just going to be a losing battle. And we all have to choose the battles. What battlefield do I want to die on, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
so I want to pick and choose what am I really going to make a big deal about here? And if I'm going to, if I, because if I know my kid is like in danger, well, then that's going to be a more, um, I'm gonna intervene
Quickly.
quickly and say, look, this is we're going down the wrong road, whatever you say, but the point you're making to your child is this is dangerous. I love you too much to allow you to keep doing this. And so if we can't have a conversation about it where we come to an agreement, then I'm taking that from you. You live in my home. You're not 18, you're not out on your own. If you want to do all that, then that's your choice. But right now, you're here. And it's my responsibility to show you that I care about you too much to allow this to keep going on. But that requires making standing your ground, so that's kind of the hard part of that. And the only reason that I would suggest doing that is because your child is in danger. They're being recruited, by somebody, how that happens,
Yeah.
gangs or drugs or pedophiles or whatever. Then to me, there's no way I could just not do anything about that. Even
No.
if it's going to cause my child to get angry, to throw things, to leave, run away. And that's really hard because I know, I've gone through some hard things with my kids and stepkids, and it's just so painful. So that's kind of the top of the tier. The other way is again engaging in conversation and trying that. Maybe you need a third party, but trying to help your kid understand, we got to talk about this. Let's come to an agreement. Help me come to an agreement with you. I'm concerned. I don't like how much time you're in your room. You shut the door. I don't know what you're doing. That's unacceptable. And you're trying to have a conversation. Now, somewhere along the line, there has to be consequences if they just continue to ignore you. I have a whole section we talk about discipline in Parents on a Mission. The proper use of discipline, but we're always trying to help parents have the humility to listen to your kids, listen and show them that you want to understand where they're coming from. And sometimes, we have to bite the bullet and we're on the sideline like a coach watching our children play in the game of life. And again, we got to decide, what am I going to make a big deal about, and what am I going to just let my kids fail and learn from a hard lesson that they might learn. And that's a discretion that I can't, a parent has to make that decision. It's hard for me to be specific about that.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the younger they are, as I already said, when do you start letting kids on social media? Well, again, that's up to the parent, but I wouldn't do it too young. And the moment I'm doing it, I'm going to make sure there's some restrictions. I'm going to make it clear what the purpose of this, I'm going to be involved in that and navigate my child through until they get old enough, because the truth is we cannot control our children once they leave the house. We have to build their integrity, build their character, implement or put in them, I call it inoculating them with family values that gives them immunity to all the toxic things that are out there in the neighborhood, because we can't put them in a closet,
No,
right?
you can't put
So
them in a bubble. There
you
is
can't
no
put them in a book.
bubbling.
And the
That,
parents that try to do that, I tell them, you're not helping your child deal with reality. And so being able to deal with society as it is, because there are crooked people, there are evil things out there, there are temptations, there are teachers that are not cool, there are policemen that overstep their bounds, all of those things. And our kids need to learn how to deal with it.
and
Um,
it's really making them aware, right? That this stuff is out there. Yet
right,
again, life is not sunshine and rainbows. And really, on social media, when they go on there, they see the highlight reel. And
right.
it's even called reel. There's a thing called reels now, too. So it's really funny because it is the highlight reel on social media. It's all, oh, the happiness, or sometimes there's people that are looking for attention and maybe it goes a negative way there. So, do you feel that social media can be a tool and for younger people, or is it something that should just really be avoided?
No, I think it can be a tool, and I think AI can be a tool.
Yeah.
But the key, I think, to these things, just like anything, is the guidance, the coaching, the oversight, the mentorship, all those things, that we want to be as parents. So I call it the role of coaching. I teach it. There's three different roles. When our children are born, we're in a nurturing, gardening role, nurturing their soul, their affection is the key, and those kind of things. Uh, which for me was really hard because I was not raised by an affectionate mother, and a lot of parents are not. So we teach, how important that is during that 0 to 2. Then from 2 to 5, well, we know at 2 years old, kids start to say, "Hey, I'm in control." And that, I call that the role of the trainer, where now you're disciplining, no, don't talk that way, don't do that, don't go there, you're going to get hurt, don't touch that. And we're training them and helping them, navigate, the world. But from 5 to 12, they're out of the house now most of the day. They're at school. And like I said, you're coaching from the sideline now because they're out there. And now when they come home, that's why you say, "Hey, I had to go to today. What's going on?" So that's the key to me. If you build the nurturing, the discipline of training, and the coaching constantly, then now they're at 12, 13 years old, you're going to have and I did this with my kids, so I can't give people 100% guarantee, but for the most part, you have their ear, you have their heart. That's the key. You have their heart. And so when you say, "Hey, you're going too far now, with this social media stuff," or, whatever it might be, you're even staying out too late, they're going to hear you and listen to you. Why? Because they don't want to disappoint you, because you invested, they know you've invested in them through those all those years. That's the nice side of this thing. But a lot of times when parents come in, they say, "Well, I didn't do any of that." It's not too late. And that's why relationship versus just taking stuff away and being mean and hard, I don't recommend that. It's not easy, but we got to start with relationship, and look at ourselves, and what can I do to improve. And I think that's the key, for parents that are just intervening now when they didn't before. Um, I would start there with trying to build that relationship and trust, and try to help our kids understand why I am concerned.
Yeah. I was going to ask you just because social media is, and like you brought up earlier, that music is really influencing kids. How are we able to raise independent thinkers when there is so much being thrown at us? Like back in the day when you and I were growing up, it was magazines, it was commercials, it was TV, but we were able to close that off. But tech is constantly there, or really constantly around us. So how is a way that how can parents really, promote that creativity, promote independent thinking when AI and social media is so putting the push and even taking away some of that creativity? Because some kids are now saying, why should I even create or draw or do anything when AI can do it?
Yeah, that's a that's where the world is going, isn't it?
Yeah, it
Um,
is.
but again, Monique, I keep coming back to it's
Yeah.
having that relationship, and it's having the conversations. It's putting yourself in a position of guidance and coach, all of the mentor, all of that. But of course, I'm repeating myself.
No,
Uh,
but that I knew that you were going to say that anyways, because it is
yeah,
communication. It
that
is
it
having that
is. It
relationship.
is, and but if you don't, if you're just starting now, that I guess that's
Hmm.
what I want parents, if you're watching this, it's not too late. It does require you to work on yourself, to be patient, and know it's going to be a bumpy road. I don't want to give you some flowery story. It's going to be a bumpy road, but you will reap the harvest if you plant the seeds and cultivate the ground. Because when you do that, you're putting the law of the harvest on your side. The law of the harvest is what you plant is what you're going to reap, and that's the law of the harvest. You're not going to not reap what you sow. The negative side of that is true too. But if you start planting those good seeds and you're consistent, just like a farmer, I call it the farmer role.
Hmm.
Uh, you're gonna reap the reward. The hard part is, when am I going to reap my reward, Richard? That part I don't know. It could take months, it could take years, it could take weeks. I don't know. And that depends again on what's been going on.
Yeah.
But the hope I like to give parents uh, is that you will achieve, if you're consistent, you will achieve that trust, that relationship, win back them, and they'll begin to listen to you again and understand. My dad loves me, my mom loves me, my stepdad, my stepmom. That's why they're doing this. But it is hard, and that's why it's so important for parents, step parents, single parents, grandparents. Start early. Got to start early.
Yeah. And for the people that have many children in their family and they're all at different ages, so let's say that there is a 5 year old and a 15-year-old in the same household, and now you're trying to implement these changes. Like, is it just concentrate right across the board and sort of have the conversation with everyone, or should it be those individual conversations just because everyone is at a different maturity level and different understanding?
Well, it's both and. It's
Hmm.
both and. My wife and I have a blended family of 8 children.
Beautiful.
And,
Congratulations.
and but before my wife's children, I have 5 children. My oldest son is well, now he's going to be 50, but my youngest daughter
Hold
is
up, hold up. 50? Your oldest son's going to be 50? Richard, you're looking fantastic. Keep doing what you're doing. You
Thank
you are you are a very healthy man. Very nice. Good for you.
you very much. I appreciate it. And his youngest sister is just turned 38.
Wow.
Okay, so there's a span.
Yeah.
So I tell a story in my book about when my oldest son, two sons, my other son is 45, and then his sister is 43, and then they're 40 and 38. So, but when they were kids, I saw that my three older kids began to resent how I was treating the two younger ones because I was more lenient, I was more patient. I was, just a better dad. And so I had to have a meeting with them to then get to your question. So because of where they were at and where we were at in our relationship, I had to have a meeting with them and talk to them and apologize to them that I hadn't been the dad that I am now. I was too harsh. I was intolerant. I was very much more strict, and I was apologizing to them for that. And that my oldest son is my stepson. He broke down, and we just had a beautiful uh, a time of just healing that. So sometimes that's to answer your question. That's going to be a one-on-one sometimes. Sometimes it might be like I did with three of the five.
Mhm.
But we always had family meetings too, and I still do that. We always had when I felt like, hey, we need to come together and talk about stuff. So that's why I said it's both and. But obviously, when you have a kid who's five and a brother who's or sister who's 13, you're going to have a different conversation with that 5-year-old or
Yeah.
6 or 7 or 8-year-old about social media than you're having, or whatever the issue is, than you're having with the 13 to 18-year-old's sibling. That's a different conversation. So, it's kind of parents knowing your kids, knowing their temperament, knowing their personalities, and knowing what's appropriate, age appropriate, all together conversation or one-on-one or two of the five conversation.
I love that you keep on bringing up as well that because there is no book for parenting, there is no guide. Every family's different, and it's just what you know so far and what's happened so far. Don't beat yourself up about it. And there is a way to move forward in a
Right.
positive path for the entire family. So I
Yeah,
love
parents.
that you keep bringing that up, Richard, because that really needs to hit home for people because some people feel so lost in like, what can I do? Is there anything else that I can do? Because yeah, they really don't know how to navigate the tech. But during your family meetings, do you talk about current events as well? And what's going on with the world, and with that, like, how much should you be sharing, because the world is complete chaos right now. Let's just get that off to the side. There is a lot going on, there's a lot of change going on, so how much of that do you share with young people in your family?
Well, when my children were young, of course, I was inculcating them with our family values, what we believe, what our faith was, what our principles were, what we believed, you know, about character, courtesy, kindness, being a neighbor, school, education, all of those things. This is what I believe. This is what your mom and I believe. This is what we believe. Of course, when they're little, they're just sitting there kind of. But as they get older, they start asking questions and having their own, thoughts. And as now, we don't always agree on everything, pretty much, but not everything. And that's where parents have to allow kids to have a voice. We have to allow kids to express themselves, even if we don't think they're right. It's not about who's right. It's about relationship. And even if I want my children to know that I want to understand where you're coming from. That doesn't mean I agree, but I do want to understand, just like I want you to understand where I come from. And if you don't agree, okay, fine. But at least we can agree to disagree in an agreeable manner. And that's something that's missing in the world today. As you said, the world's crazy because people don't know how to disagree maturely in a respectful way, and just say, okay, you see it that way. You're pro-life, I'm pro-choice, you're a Democrat, I'm Republican, you're conservative, I'm fine. So why do we have to disrespect each other? That's how I see the world. And what happens is we're always trying to convince people to see the world our way. So with children, we're doing that when they're little, but when they get older, we have to allow them to explore the world and have their views. So that's what I did. That's what I do. We do talk about current events, what's going on. The immigration issue is a huge issue. The political, the issue, the finance, the money, all that's going on. Because I want my kids to be able to think for themselves. So you asked that question, how do you do that? again, it's asking questions and conversation. Like one of the things I would do when the news was on, I'd ask my kids, "What do you think about that?" And they're like, "About what?" "About what he just said." "Well, what did he say?" I said, "Yeah, well, exactly. You're not even paying attention."
Yeah.
Said or she said XYZ. What do you think about that? And again, I wasn't looking for the right answer as much as I just wanted them to think about what they were hearing and to be able to analyze it for themselves rather than just take everything in as if it's the gospel truth.
Yeah, and question it. That's something that a lot of us have been doing lately is just questioning the things that we see, especially with the fake news or AI posts. Like, am I seeing this, and what do I think about it? Is this real? And what are my actual opinions on what I'm seeing? Yeah. Is there some topics that should be delayed or just sort of filtered for children when it comes to current events? Is there something that may be a little bit too harsh, or is it really just depend on the child as yet again? Because
Yeah,
it is. It's really listening to your children. I understand, but there's some big heavy stuff out there, right?
well, think about that's why we have ratings for movies. That's why they do
Yeah.
that, right? That's why they have, oh, this is rated PG. Oh, great. This is rated G. This is rated R. This is rated, whatever it is. And it's why do they do that? Because again, they're making a decision for us in a way. Uh, we don't have to listen to it, but they're telling you this movie is not appropriate for children. So we as parents should be able to do that as well. We should be able to monitor what our kids are listening to, watching, or the conversation that we're having. One of the things that bothers me a lot is when parents have adult friends or relatives over and they're using language right in front of their kids, little kids, that to me, it's so inappropriate. It's like, okay, if you want to talk that way, they're using profanity every other word, then, do it when there's just the adults in the room.
Yeah.
Not your 5-year-olds here, your 9-year, 10-year-old, they're sitting right there, so those kind of things to me, you know, I would talk to my kid and say, "Hey, man, Dad, I'm not judging people as far if they want to talk that way, that's fine. But your dad doesn't talk that way, and so I would hate for you guys to talk that way." This is when they were little, you
Yeah.
know. So that's one thing I would do. But I do think age appropriate. Yeah, there to me, there's got to be some guideline now. Right now, as you know, this transgender issue is huge. It used to be the homosexual issue, or gay marriage, which it still is, I guess. And what's the other? Uh, well, just sex in general.
Hmm.
I don't, as a parent, I want to be the one to have that conversation with my child.
Yeah.
I don't need it to come from the school, the counselor, whoever. Now, I know that that's happening or going to happen, but I want to be the one to have that conversation. At what age? Well, again, that depends on every parent has to decide what that is
Hmm.
and know their kids. When are you going to talk to your daughter about contraception or having sex, premarital sex? What age? Well, again, usually it's around teenage when you start doing that. I don't
Hmm.
think we need to talk to, an 8-year-old about sex, but that's what they're doing in schools. I
Yeah.
don't know about up there, but down
Same.
here,
Hmm.
and that was one of there's two good things that came out of that I think came out of COVID. One was some parents had an opportunity to spend more time with their kids than they hadn't done in a long time because of work. And they
Yeah.
were able to be home together, and we were all kind of shut down in our homes in the very early time when it first started. So that was kind of a good thing. The second thing was parents began to hear what their kids were being taught, and that's when the firestorm happened. They're like, "What? What did she say? What is he saying? What are they teaching you?" And that's where a lot of parents went to these school board meetings and started protesting, what they were teaching.
Yeah.
They were, these, again, I don't know how you feel about it, but they were having these drag queen story times.
Hmm.
And a lot of parents were like, I don't need my son or daughter at 5, 6 years old to be sitting through that and seeing that image and all of that.
Yeah.
And so those were some of the good two good things. And to me, it's entirely appropriate for parents to decide what age they're going to talk to those social issues with their kids. And it's inappropriate, in my opinion, for schools to be trying to take the place of parents.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said before, after age 5, the children aren't in the home as much as they are, so they do have those outside influences. And it, at least where we're at, there's permission slips. So, oh, this event is going on, or would you like your child to admit out of it? But then it's them feeling like, oh, I'm not able to be a part because of what's going on. So like they might be feeling like missing out. But you, to have them miss out on one thing, to not be strongly influenced and to have more home influence, it's something that, is worth the argument about with your 5 year old, for missing a
Yeah,
story time for half an hour, right? So
yeah, that's right. And it's know our values, stand our ground. And yeah, our kids are probably going to sneak around. They're going to find out anyway, one way or another. But again, and I went off track too when I was younger, but I always, remind parents, but it was what was put in me. That's what grew, and that's what I went back to. What my mother put in me, the discipline, the integrity, the character, those things, those are the seeds that were planted in me. And even though I, went off track for a while, like a lot of kids do,
yeah.
but we come back to what we know, and those seeds end up growing. So that's the hope we have to give parents, so they're not so stressed out and anxious about everything that's out there, because there's a lot out there.
Oh, there is a lot out there. And for some young people that are coming out of their teenage stage and going into their 20s, I've heard it come out of their mouth. Why should I even try? It's the world's coming to an end anyways. Why
Hmm.
should I even try? Because I'll never be able to afford a house. And it's like, well, if you're saying that, you're completely right. But if you're saying that you're going to work towards it and get it, you're right as well, right?
Yep.
But like how and we can't change people. We can't this is how you're going to think now or anything like that. But how can we empower young people to see a future on the other side and to sort of want things for themselves instead and want experiences rather than just watching it on social media, watching it on TikTok and feeling like they've had that experience.
I think the best way is to demonstrate it.
Yeah.
If we as parents are demonstrating it, number one. Number two, that we could point to people that are saying, that's not true. Look at him. Look at her. How did they become what they've become?
Yeah.
What did they do? Let's read their story, or, expose them either, if it's not going to be through reading a book together or giving a book to somebody, because a lot of people don't like to read, then there might be a movie, there might be a concert we could go to, there might be an event where we can get our kids around and show them, no, the world is not coming into an end, the climate change, all of these things. Okay, but today we're doing this because we're looking forward to tomorrow and our future. And that's to me, the best thing is to just demonstrate it and also get them around people who are not buying into that mentality. Let's just all give up and sit around and do nothing. That victim mentality, no, we're not having a victim mentality. We're having a victor mentality. Uh,
Yeah.
that's what we want to give our children.
Yeah, I love it. I also love, just to go back on what you were saying about we're always trying to convince people of our opinion, and that really needs to cut out and stop. Another thing is start looking at the words that are being said instead of the personality of the person that's saying it. Because
Yes.
there's a lot of knowledge coming from people, and if some people have such a distaste in their mouth for a Joe Rogan, a Donald Trump, a Camilla Harris, like whoever else, but sometimes the words that they're saying is actually really great pieces of knowledge, although it's coming from that person, right? So it's It goes along with what you're saying about it doesn't have to be convincing. I posted right before Christmas. When you go to Christmas dinner, you say what you feel, listen to other people that you don't see that often, that are part of your family, that you're having to smile through, but know that you don't have to convince that person of what you're thinking. Just respect it and be like, okay, we both have different opinions and we both love each other, so we're just going to say, okay, we don't agree and that's okay, so let's move on, right?
Yeah, how does a healthy community get built?
Yeah.
You know, where I always so one of the things I say is um, where are the citizens, what makes a thriving, safe, healthy community? Well, it's the people. It's not the buildings, it's not the trees, all those things are needed. It's the people, the citizens. Okay, where do they come from? Citizens go to church, they don't come from church. They go to school, they don't come from school. They go to work, they don't come from work. They go to sports events. Well, where do they come from? Citizens come from our home. Therefore, the question is, what kind of citizen, mom and dad, are we sending into the community every day? Because our neighbors, the school, the teacher, the police, the work, the employers, they're depending on us to send them great employees, great students, caring neighbors, respectful neighbors, people who know how to get along with other people that are not like them. And so that helps parents, or I'm trying to help them understand, look, we need to be objective and more honest about the diversity in our communities. That's what the university is. It's the diversity, unity and diversity. So diversity can be a good thing. It doesn't have to be, this whole DEI thing. It doesn't have to be that.
Yeah.
It can be just that the fact that we are different. We have different ethnicities. We have different culture. We have a different point of view. It's okay. And let's just be honest to get back to what you said. Um, if even if we don't like the person, does that mean that everything they say is wrong and bad?
Exactly.
It's just not being honest. It's just not being honest. I can learn from my enemies. I can learn from my critics. I can learn as a professional, as a leader and leadership development that I teach and all that. I teach we have to learn from our enemies and our critics and our people who don't, see the world the way we do. Maybe we need to listen to that. Maybe we could learn something. Maybe we could get better. And I always express that to parents. That's the kind of thing that helps our kids be the kind of people who can go into a neighborhood or a diverse community and be a light in the darkness and be kind and be respectful, be objective, be honest, and not be so negative and ugly. And where do racists come from? I mean, it's the same answer as where do the citizens come from? I don't believe anybody's born that way. At least I don't think that. I think that's a learned behavior. Again, so it's that's why I do this, Monique. That's why I do Parents on a Mission. And I want to shamelessly say this.
Yeah,
I know
please.
you said that there is no book or manual for parents. Well,
Unless it's yours. I was
I
gonna
would just,
say,
well, I was
don't
going to say,
worry. That's
I would
that.
just offer people to read my book, and maybe you'll find some things in there but all kidding aside, I've trained over 2,000 people. I've been doing this since 2007. I've had a lot of, in all seriousness, I've had a lot of people tell me that finally there's a manual for parents.
Yeah. See, and that's exactly it. And it's I love that you brought that up because my next question, it's a question that everyone gets asked on Morning Sunshine.
Okay.
And that is, what one book would you recommend to someone looking to accomplish that big thing that they have in their heart other than yours? Because yours, we're
Yeah.
definitely getting to, like, we will definitely get into, and actually we'll get into right after this one before we go over to the private session for morning
Yeah,
sunshine and rise and
yeah,
thrive
whenever,
members.
another time.
Oh
But
no. Yeah.
it depends on what they are trying to accomplish. If there's want to be a better leader,
Hmm.
The one book I love and have read, it's heavy reading, but it's a book by Edwin H. Friedman. It's
Okay.
called A Failure of Nerve, Leadership in the Age of the Quick Fix. And it's a
Ooh.
really challenging book for parents and leaders. It covers the gamut, and it's an excellent book. He wrote it. Actually, he was writing it in that book in 1996, and then he passed away. But his daughter and wife brought together his notes, and they published the book. And it's a fantastic book. And he's written other books, but that one is a great book. Um, if you're developing an organization, I've read, Stephen R. Covey. He is one of my book mentors who I really learned a lot from him. He wrote The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, and Principle Centered Leadership. I mean, those are just books, again, I've read over and over. So those are deal more with organizational development, management, and developing the culture of an organization and things like that.
Yeah.
Uh, John Maxwell is also very good, and Patrick Lencioni. Those are people that I would recommend. So
Excellent.
that's more than one book. But my answer to you is it depends on what it is, the topic or the subject that somebody's trying to achieve.
Yeah. Now, before we head over to the private session, let's talk about your book. We touched on it. We talked about it a bit, but yeah, it's definitely a guide for parents, and you have more than one book as well. So, if you could talk a little bit more about that and where people can find you, because we only touched on the knowledge that you have today, Richard. And like I said, I've been looking forward to talking to you for quite a while. Well, since you said yes, I'll come on. I'm like, perfect. Get out my get out all my questions and get ready. So let's hear all about where we could find you and about your books and just how they are helping people, because I definitely see it in all the comments that are and the reviews that are out there for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I have a website, richardraramos.com. Don't forget my people forget my middle initial and they go to richardraramos.com.
Hmm.
That's not me. So
I'll take it. Don't worry.
richardraramos.com.
Yeah.
So there I have my books are there and other videos and just other stuff. And I'll be adding some courses to that for parents. Um, I'm going to be recording some courses. So they
Nice.
can go there and they can find my books on Amazon as well if they want to do that.
Excellent. And we're definitely going to put them in the description as well.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I'm finishing up what I'm writing right now as a sequel to Parents on a Mission is The Art of Step Parenting, How to Blend Families Without Tearing Them Apart.
Oh,
And the reason I'm writing that, I've been a step parent most of my married life and adult life,
mhm.
but I just found through the years as I've been doing this work that, so many families are blended, step family, single parent, divorced parents, uh, and they deal with different specific dynamics. And so I felt the need to address some of those things, obviously not every single thing, but the main things that I think most blended families and step parents and single parents. So I'm writing that book, and when I finish that, I'll let you know.
Absolutely. I look forward to it because to be honest, a lot of my friends are single parents, and some have completely stopped dating because they're like not ready to bring another person in as a adult example, you know. And then some people are looking to bring in a partner, but it's finding the right partner. So maybe we could dive into that a bit more in the private session. But yeah, wonderful. Look for Richard on his website. It's tagged in the description. And yeah, we'll head over to the private session. Thanks so much, Richard.
My pleasure.
Thank you for watching Morning Sunshine. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and stick around. There's plenty more to come. Looking for real connection? Join the Rise and Thrive community for exclusive access to private sessions with guests, plus a community that actually gets it. No fluff, just people who are ready to grow together. More of a solo explorer? Just take Discover Your 52 for a test drive. Grab your free chapter, your ideal day and see if it speaks to you. No pressure, just a chance to reflect on what you really want. Ready to reconnect with yourself? The 52 to You challenge is all about you. Find it here. And of course, if something in this episode stood out to you, drop a comment or share it with someone who needs to hear it.